Hi everybody, here's Christian from Team Broadcast. Welcome to our Pico-8 tutorial, Pico-8 Hero. And so we are making our Breakout clone game in Pico-8. I'm gonna load it. The last time around we did some kind of like very simple, but kind of like a lot of structure stuff. We learned what state machines are. We added a bunch of we added a starting screen, we added a score and stuff like that. So now it actually is an actual game. You can see our score going up. You can fight for the high score. Today I wanted to add blocks, but before we add blocks, let me start with something simple as well. Something I don't like about this game currently is that you can move your paddle outside of the screen. So let me fix this. Right. Here where we move the pad, we're gonna go like, I'm gonna use a special function. I think I already did it here, right? I already did it here, the mid function. The mid function basically makes sure that a certain thing is between two values. So we're gonna go pad x equals mid. And the minimal value we should have here is 0, comma, pad x, comma, and now comes the maximum value that we're gonna get here. 127 minus pad width. Where is pad width? Pad w, right? Pad w. Maybe to reiterate, I explained it last time around, but I like to explain it again. So the idea is that the mid function takes 3 values and it returns that value that is in the middle of the 3 values, right? So it basically makes sure that if you put in a value that is kind of variable and 2 values that are fixed, it will always make sure that the value that is variable is between the 2 other ones. Because if it's ever the lowest one, it will be turned into the next upper one. It's kind of, so let me give you an example. So you have 0, 1, and 2, right? If these are the 3 values, if you go like mid 0, 1, and 2, it will pick 1 because 1 is the middle value here. And let's say you want running this function to make it sure that it's between 0 and 100. Let's go with 0 and 100. So it's 50. It's going to stay 50 because it's the middle value. If it's 99, it's going to stay 99 because the middle value. But it's ever -1. Suddenly the -1 is no longer the middle value. Now it's 0 that is the middle value. So it will pick 0 this time around. So that's how you can make sure that something stays between 2 numbers. And it's the same if you put like 200. Now 200 is not the middle value. It's 100 that's the middle value now. So it's a cool trick that somebody suggested the other day. I really like this in Lua. Right, so now we're making sure that the pad stays on the screen. Let's see if this works. Yep, I cannot leave the screen anymore. Something I would maybe do at some point is to make sure that, to make it so that it bounces off the edges. Right now it just touches the edges and like sticks to them. It would be nice if it would just, bounce off and move in that other direction. But so far it's good. Okay, so let me talk about blocks. Blocks. How are we going to do blocks? Well, we have a collision with a block already, right? We have the collision with the paddle. The paddle could be understood as a sort of block. But of course, we don't have just one block. We're going to have multiple blocks. So how are we going to do this? Let me start out by just dealing with one block first, and then let's see how we are going to use, how I'm going to change this to make it work with multiple blocks, with any number of blocks. So I'm going to call this brick. Brick. So the brick is not moving, so we don't need a dx. We need a width and height. That's fine. I'm not sure. C was the color, right? I'm not gonna deal with the color just yet. I'm just gonna call this brick. I have written down some values that I thought were nice for bricks, but maybe we're gonna at some point we're gonna have different values. We're just gonna oh, there's something weird. Brick w and brick underscore height. Right. So what positions are we going to start those bricks in? I'm going to say 5 and 20. They seem fine to me. We probably have to start the ball a bit lower now, so they don't hit the brick. Let me see. Where's the ball there? The serve ball function deals with that, right? Actually, we're going to put the bricks here. We're going to put them into the serve ball function. Do we put them in the serve ball? No, we don't. We have to put it in the start game function. Sorry about that. Right, so the ball starts at y value 33. So it should start below the brick. Yeah, it will start below the brick. Let me draw the brick on the screen now. Let's go to draw game. There we go, draw game. Right, and then the way we draw the pad here, we're gonna use the same technique to draw the brick. I'm gonna do a comment here so we know that what we're dealing with. Draw bricks. Right, and then we go brick. Instead of pad X, we're gonna go brick X. Instead of pad Y, gonna go brick Y. Brick X plus brick width and brick Y plus brick height. And then that's the color. I'm gonna set it firmly to 14. That's kind of like a pinkish color. I think that's a nice color. Let's try this. So you can see up there, there's a tiny little brick. It's a bit maybe too small. I'm not really sure about that brick. Maybe a bit too small. We can now tweak the brick. That's why we're here. Right, so let's, instead of 4, let's go up to 6. No, actually, I have different numbers. The width was 13. That was and the height was 4. Let's try this. Yeah, that's more like, that seems more like a better brick. Hi Christian, I go to University for Game Design and Computer Science in the States. I tried to share your Pico-8 series with people in my school, but sadly I don't think many people clicked on it. Well, thank you for sharing it either way. I don't know if people are using Pico-8 because, you know, you want to watch the Pico-8 series only if you're actually interested in Pico-8. So, you know, not a lot of people are out there who know of the fantastic Pico-8 series, of the fantastic Pico-8 environment yet. Right, I think this is a nice brick. I like this brick. This brick size is nice. So, so the width is the width is 10 and the height is 4. That's what I'm going to stick with. Okay, so that's good. We also need to save something else because we're going to want to now do a collision detection with the brick, and we want to see if the brick is even visible, right? Brick v for visible equals true, and if it's false, then we can we're not going to do collision detection. So let me go here where we collide with the pad. Let me see. Right here, you see where we check if ball hit pad, right? We're just going to copy this and we're going to paste this. And we're going to go ball box. Everything is fine. Now instead of pad, we're going to go brick X, brick Y, brick width, oops, and brick height. And then there's now this deflection thing going on, which we also have to deal with, which uses the same thing. Ball, 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 brick. Now we see that it's really nice that we already had this function that calculates our collision very nicely, because we can just type in different variables in here and it will just work just fine. Okay, so then we check how to deflect the ball, and then there's going to be a sound effect which we have to deal with right now, and then let's say hitting a brick gives you 10 points. It's better than just hitting a paddle, or let's go with 10. Let's see if this works. There's one more thing I forgot. Oh, we might actually never hit the brick because it's over way there in the screen. We have to might reposition this. Oh no. Yeah, see, there's a bit of a problem with this game. Like sometimes, because we don't really change the angle of the ball, there's certain positions on the board that we never get hit with the ball. Now you're deleting your pad stuff. No, I'm not. We have to put pad stuff up here. I copied and pasted it. Some pussy. There's my ball hit pad stuff, and this is my brick stuff. Not check if ball hit brick. It's the same code, so I copied and pasted it, but I changed it to work with the brick that we had. Right, so that was a bit of a problem. The brick was in a bad position. So I'm gonna deal with this. But something that occurred to me is that we have to also check if the brick is even visible. So if brick underscore v, if it's true, and there's a collision, then. And then if there's collision, I'm gonna go brick underscore v equals false. So the brick actually disappears when we hit this. And then let me now move the brick around here so we can put it maybe on some spot where it's more likely to get hit. I'm gonna put it more in the center of the screen. So let's go like with 60. All right, so this seems like a good place to get hit. Bam, I hit it. It didn't disappear though. It didn't disappear because we are still drawing the brick. But if I'm right, yeah, the ball will now no longer collide with it because we set v brick underscore v to false now. So it no longer collides with it, but it's still visible. So let me draw the brick. I mean, not draw the brick. Let's see where this is. Draw game. Let me jump to the functions real quick. Draw game. That's what we were looking for. Update game. Draw start. Draw game. There we go. There's where we draw bricks, and we go like if brick v, if it's visible, then, and then we're gonna draw the brick. Right? Let's try this. Perfect. Something I don't like is that we don't have a sound effect. So let's create a sound effect. Let me see. So I'm thinking it's like a kind of sound effect. Let's see how this sounds. Well, if this is faster, let's go a little bit. It's a bit too long, and it needs to be more sudden. Now it's a bit too sudden. Let me go like this maybe. Now it's a more of whoosh sound effect. Maybe different. Maybe not quite as. Oh, I like this. Let me try different instruments. A bit too harsh. What if it's higher? I kind of like this. It's kind of nice. It's kind of like a very, very video gamey sound. Okay, maybe we're not gonna do the. Let's go like something like this. This is kind of nice. It seems like it's hitting something that is made out of glass, perhaps, and it's like bling. Let's go with this. So this is sound number 3. And if you have any suggestions for better sounds, we can still change them later on. We just need something to make it seem like we're doing something. Okay, let me see. It's in a draw game. No, it is in update game. There we go. That's where we look going for. And then we're gonna hear where we hit the brick. It's going to be sound effect number 3. Was a bit. I'm not in love with that sound effect yet. What if we make it longer? Let me work with the volume. Okay, let's try this. Maybe. Let's try this. Okay, but this is not the reason why we're talking about this. So what if we want to have multiple bricks, right? What if we want to have multiple bricks? It's kind of bad what we're doing here right now. It's bad. Because if you think about this, okay, so this is one brick. This is the code that we had to add one brick. So if you want to have a second brick, do we really just like copy and paste and go like brick x2, brick xy, and then we have like another if statement down there? That would be horrible, right? We can't do this. Like we could maybe pull this off with like 5 bricks, but the code would just impossibly long, and it would be very tedious to work with that. We are in a good position though. We are lucky. Programming has solved this problem for us. I'm going to save this. I'm going to exit. I'm going to start a new game, new program. I mean, just to show you how this works, because I think this is worth isolating and explaining a little bit. There is a thing in the Pico-8, and down here we have this explained a little bit. There is something called tables. A table. It's a type of variable. So, like we have true. It's kind of like a variable. But it works a little bit differently. It's not just one variable, it's a list of variables. It's a table of variables. So instead of having just like one number, you can have 20 numbers stored in a single variables. Or you can have 200 numbers stored in a single variable. So let me show you what I mean. So for example, you go, so this is not a table, but this is a table now. You go the curly brackets, and then go like 1, 2, 3. I didn't have the 1 here. Something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or let's go with some crazy numbers. You're going to go 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700. And you can continue the table as long as you want. You can have as many entries in the table as you want. Well, at some point at millions of entries, you will get into memory issues. But yeah, so this is the table. And so how do we access those things? How do I deal with this? The idea is you go like print, for example, it's print something. Oops. And you cannot just, I don't know what happens if we just print it. Let's see if this works. Oh, I didn't save it. Oh, it just printed the table. So to access a value from our table, and to access one value in this huge list of variables, you go square brackets. Up there, to define the table, we use curly brackets. Now we use square brackets to access the different values. And in the square brackets, you put the number of the variable. So, 100 is at number 1, 200 is at number 2, 300 is number 3. And, just to make sure, they could be out of order. So, we can have 300 as number 1 and 100 as number 2. And then another 300. It doesn't really matter. So now 1 is 300. Got it? So now when we print it and run this, it prints 300 on the screen. See, there's 300. Let me CLS so it's clearer. 300, right? Let me print all of our entries in this table so you know what I'm talking about. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So we should have 300, 100, 300, 400, 500, 600. 300, 400, 300, 400, 500, 600. Okay? And that's nice. That's super nice, right? So how does that help us? I mean, we still have to create all the tables and stuff like that. That's kind of like not helping us. So there's a second concept here that I want to introduce to you. And these are listed also here, there where we say loops, right? Loops. You can create a loop and a loop through a table to do something with each value in that table. So here, let me show you. So the simplest one is the for next loop. For I equals 1, 6, and then do, and then end. So what happens now is we take the variable I, that is going to be kind of like our counter for the loop, and we loop through through everything inside the do and end. We loop through all of that 6 times. And each of the times we loop through this, we repeat this 6 times. And each time we repeat this, we're going to increment I by 1 until it reaches 6. So first time around when we go through, I'm going to run this around, and we're going to have 6 times 300 printed on the screen. There it goes, 6 times 300. And we want to have 600 times this. We're going to run this and we have 600 this. We can have 8, just so you know, and if you have 8 times. So we repeating the same function 8 times. The same amount, the same text 8 times. We can do other things in here. It doesn't really matter. You can have as many commands in a loop as you want. And the cool thing is that every time we loop through this, I, the variable I, you can also have I, it doesn't really matter. You can name the variable whatever you want. I is going to have a different value. So let me show you this real quick. I'm going to save this for later because this is going to become important later. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean with this loop. Right. So I'm going to print I. I'm just going to print I on the screen. See, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? Because it loops 8 times through the loop, every time increasing I by 1. And this is very useful for what we're trying to do, because look, we can now plug the I, the variable I, into the index. Index is the number of an entry inside a table. And that's how we can iterate, how we can do the same thing over and over again through all of the members, all of the entries inside a table. So if I run this, it will print all of the entries, and then it's going to print a nil because we haven't defined an 8th entry. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 8th entry, when it says table 8, it returns a nil, which means I don't know what you're talking about, man. Huh. That is one hell of a thing. A hell of a concept, very important for the future, because with this kind of stuff, you can do crazy things. We can use these two things, a for next loop and a table, to create a lot of bricks and do a lot of collision detection with a lot of bricks just by putting, for example, collision detection in a for next loop and iterate through the multiple bricks that we have on the screen. Huh, that is weird. I'm going to show you one more thing, because the table that we have here, what if you want to change the table on the fly? Can you do that? Yes, you can. You can, of course, change the value of a table. For example, let's just return this to, let us set table 1 equals 999, right? You can run this and you can see the first entry in the table is 999. That's great. That's good. But what if we want to maybe add elements to the table? We can do that as well. So for example, we can go add, the function is add. Then we go table, that's the name of our table. And then what kind of thing we're going to add to the table. Now the thing that we're adding to the table, let's go with 666. So you've seen how previously we have a nil value at the end because we didn't have 8 entries. So now we're adding one more to the table. And if you run it, you can see there is no longer nil at the end. There's now a 666 because we added a last entry to our table. Interesting, right? So you don't have to we don't even have to write all of our bricks out hand by hand, placing them hand by hand, but we can actually use a for next loop to create our bricks with code. So we don't even have to touch anything. Our code will spawn all of the bricks and do all of the collision detection with the bricks. Keep those things in mind. We're going to repeat them a lot of times. We're going to use them for bricks. Later on, maybe we're going to use them for particles. So there's like, little explosions with things flying around when the ball hits a brick. There's a lot of things we can do with this. Keep this in mind. A very, very powerful ability. I'm going to show you one more last thing that is important to remember. Actually, 2 more things. One thing is I'm going to show you how do you know how many entries there are in a table. You do this with a hashtag table. That is going to be the number of the entries in the table. So if you print hashtag table and run this, you can see on the top here it says 7. It now knows that there are 7 entries in the table. Then we add 1 entry to the table right here, and I'm going to print this again. And then we're gonna see 7 and 8. So it starts out with 7. We add 1 entry. Now it knows we know 8. So this is actually very useful because, for example, here you noticed how we looped it 1 to 8, and there was actually no 8th entry, and that created an error. And if that happens, your code breaks usually. So to make sure that you iterate through all of the entries in a table, you can just put like this. You can just put from 1 to, we're going to repeat the loop from 1 to hashtag table. So that means it will go through all of the entries in the table. And then if you ever used tables or arrays, in other programming language, they are called arrays. If you ever used arrays in other programs, there is a difference between how they work in Lua compared to other programs. In Lua, the first entry is 1. The number is 1. Of the first entry that you create in the table. It's number 1. In other programming language, they start with 0. And that's how you get sometimes some kind of like confusion. Just a little detail. If you've never used any programming language before, just remember it starts with 1. That's good. Right. So we can run this, yeah. So now, for example, now that our for loop pays attention to a number of entries in our table, we can actually, for example, remove some of the tables. And it won't print any nil tables now. It will just loop twice. It will automatically adjust to the amount of content that we have in our table. Let us take this knowledge and make it true somehow and put it in our program. So what I want to do now is crazy. Just strap yourself in because it's going to be crazy. I'm going to turn the bricks into a table. And I'm going to create multiple tables. So first of all, it would be nice to save 20. I'm gonna save the brick y just for sure, to be sure. So the brick x is gonna be a table. I'm gonna open and close a bracket to create an empty table. There's nothing in this table yet, but there will be soon. Curly bracket, open and close for y as well. We create 2 tables. The width and height of the different bricks are not going to change, so we don't have to touch them. But the visibility of each individual brick has to be also tracked individually for each individual brick. So let's, as a goal for the end of this episode, let's make sure we create a row of bricks on the screen. Just a single row. We're not going to do multiple rows yet, just a single row, okay? Let's try this. I'm going to create a new function. just as we have serve ball here, I'm gonna create a separate function. I'm gonna call this build bricks. I would make some kind of joke with, we're gonna build a wall and make Mexico pay for it, but politics. It's not funny anymore, so I'm not gonna do it anymore. Right, so now we have to do what we had before, the for next function. So for, let's go with I is fine. Let's make sure this is a local variable, local I, just make sure. So for I equals 1, comma, hashtag brick x. I know it's pound. Is it pound? No, it's not pound. Oh, Jesus, not pound. Sharp. But I like to call it hashtag. Do, and then end is at the end. I always have to look at that myself. I don't have everything in my head. That's why we have these things. Use this. This is good. There's some loops in here as well. You can look them up. All of them are very useful. We get to use all of them at some point. Right. So we just use brick x as our. No, actually, that's the wrong thing. See, because now we are going to actually create everything. So let me go like 10. Let's create. Let me go 5. Let's create 5 bricks. 1 to 5. So because we built the bricks from scratch, we're gonna assign new empty tables to each of the 3 tables that we have, X, Y, and V. We're gonna assign new tables. We're gonna reset the board, basically. That's what build bricks does. And then we're gonna loop through the for next loop 5 times. And each time we're gonna go add brick X and then something. We're not quite sure yet. We know that we started with 60, but if we just add 60, the number 60 5 times into it, we're gonna have 5 bricks on the same spot. That's not what we're gonna do. We're gonna fix this in a second. Let me just continue adding the other values in here, because we know that we're gonna add a line of bricks, so their Y coordinate is all going to be 20. So it's fine to adding all 20s, but we want to separate them along the X value. That's something that we still feel bad about. So, but that comes in a second. We know that they all should be visible. So V is going to be all true for them, right? Right. So with the X value, we can put a mathematical expression in here, and that mathematical expression will use I, the variable that we have for our loop. I told you this is super nice because the I is really helpful. It allows us to do something else, something different every time we loop through the loop. So for example, we can go something like we can put I, for example, in the bricks. So then the X value of each brick will be, the first brick will be at 0.1, at the pixel number 1. The second brick will be at X coordinate number 2, and the third going to be at X coordinate number 3. But that would mean that the bricks would be very, very close together. So we want to spread them a little bit apart, right? We can do that. We're going to go I times the asterisk means times, and we go times the width of the bricks. So we're going to spread them apart based on how wide they are. Brick W. Brick W plus 1, because we want to have a little bit of spacing between the bricks. I like the spacing. And we're going to put the brick W plus 1, we're going to put this in a bracket, so because there's it first multiplies, then it adds. So we want first add and then multiply. There's one more problem. I starts at 1. I start at 0 for this. So the first brick is going to be at the very edge of the screen. The next brick is going to be 1 brick width away. So I minus 1 times brick W plus 1. Seems complicated. It's actually not that much. I'm going to add 5 pixel margin to this as well. Okay, we cannot run this as well because we have to adjust. First, we have to make sure that all of our other code works with this. But we can already, over here, actually we don't need this anymore. We can put build bricks up in here. So we build the bricks. Let me go through the code and let's see the different moments where we do something with a brick right now and change it so it works with all of the bricks that we have. Let me see. Build bricks. I'm going to take this for next loop. I'm just going to take it. I'm going to copy it so we can maybe paste it in. Here, draw bricks. Yes, this is something that we want to do now. Okay, again, I'm going to do a local variable, local I. Not important, you don't have it, but I kind of like to separate the variables so they're not all over the place. Right, so now we do another loop. This time around, we're not going to do until 5, because maybe we want to change the number of bricks at some point, and we don't have to change it, in our program all the time. So just going to go hashtag brick X. We're going to use brick X as our guide. And then, so first, this is how we drew the brick until now. Let's get this out and put it in here. So we had one variable called brick V, but now we have a whole table of variables called brick V. So we have to do like a square bracket here and plug the I in here. That's it. Now the if statement is done. And the same thing we're going to do after each individual entry here. Just square bracket and I, because we are no longer dealing with one variable. We are dealing with a table of variables, and we loop through this loop. And each time we loop through this loop, we're addressing a different entry in this table of variables. And that entry is defined by the number I, which changes every time we loop through this. Great. And that's it. The bricks should get drawn correctly now. Let me copy this, and let me now deal with the collision detection. Check if bulk hit brick. Cool. Again, I'm going to pull this apart a little bit. So first of all, I'm going to put this entire if statement into the for next loop. The same kind of for next loop we had when we drew things. I'm going to fix the intent. It's very important to fix the intent. If you're not doing this, you should fix your intents because they make code more readable. You make less mistakes when you make sure that your code is properly formatted. As you can see, everything that's inside the for next loop is one space further down the line. And everything that's inside this if statement is even one more state. So I know exactly what's inside the if statement. Right, so now here I have to check for the visibility of brick. So again, adding just a square brackets and I behind every mention of one of the variables that we're talking about. Here, brick X, brick Y, brick W is not a table, and brick H is not a table because all the bricks have the same size. Then here, ball X and ball Y, that's okay. Brick X, brick Y, brick W stays, and brick A stays, that's good. And then here, very important, we need to set brick VI to false. Okay, let's try this. We changed a lot of code. There is a possibility that that will go wrong. Saving it, running it. Yes, it did go wrong. So brick W has a nil value. Brick W has a nil value. They didn't found any brick W. Let's see where we're defining brick W. What is happening with brick W now? What did go wrong? We do have brick W here though, so I'm not sure exactly what is happening. Huh, that is weird. Where does it have this? Ah, I see the problem. So this error came up here where we were placing our bricks, right? And the problem is we're building the bricks before we define how big they are. And so it doesn't really know how far to space them apart. So I put them above the build bricks function. I'm gonna save it, gonna run it. And now we have a line of bricks. We do collide with them, so that's nice. There's 2 more left. I don't think I will ever hit them now, sadly. Or maybe I will. Oh, I lost the thing. Okay, so the spacing is not quite what we expected. Not sure exactly why. I'm just going to add more spacing to it. Ah, that helps. Ah, this time it worked. Okay, so we have 5 bricks. Let's go with 10 with more bricks. Let's go with 8 bricks. Oops, didn't work. Why didn't it work? That's weird. No bricks. But it worked for 5 bricks. No, now nothing works anymore. Oh yeah, that's right. I misspelled here something. Mistakes have been made. There we go. 8 bricks are fine still. Let's go with 9 bricks. Can we get 9 bricks in here? Yes. We might even have 10 bricks. Yeah. But now the margin on the right is a little bit larger. I have an idea for a sound effect. So the first sound effects are just straight lines, right? And just at different heights. Let me see. Yeah, different heights. So how about we're just gonna make equally different height, but very, very high pitched. So I saw that you can copy a sound effect and you can paste it somewhere else. So that's how we get the volume profile here. Let's try this. It's more minimalistic. And you can see that our ball is reflecting really nicely now. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. And it's kind of nice how once you add the bricks, you get also more variation in the way the ball flies around on the screen. It's no longer as, the ball used to just loop around. We just perfectly circumvented the brick. Oh, come on, man. Something that is still missing in our game is we cannot actually win the game. I mean, I'm not saying that I cannot fit... I'm not referring to the fact that I cannot hit the brick. There we go. But now we removed all the bricks and the game is still not over. We can continue playing indefinitely. That's something that we have to deal with later on. Huge concept today. Let me one more time reiterate, because this is very important. A lot of people, like when I teach it to my students, the concept of arrays, people often phase out. They don't understand this. So I want you to, if you have problems with this, please post comments on YouTube if something is not quite clear. Tables or arrays are lists of variables. It's a variable that contains a list of more variables of the same type, usually. So we have 3 lists here for the X coordinates of our bricks, for the Y coordinates of our bricks, and for the visibility of our bricks. We use the loop function here to loop 10 times through a loop that keeps adding more entries into those 3 lists, into those 3 tables. Just adding different values for X and Y positions and for the visibility. And then when we draw the bricks, we use a similar loop. We use a similar loop here to iterate through all of the different entries in the 3 different lists and see if a certain brick is visible. And if it's visible, we see if a certain brick, where it is, and we draw it on the location defined by brick X and brick Y, the table brick X and brick Y. And it's always important that we access the different entries in a list by using this index, this thing in the square brackets. And we use the I variable that we use in our loop to iterate through each individual entry in the list. And we do the same thing with collision detection, where we again iterate through all of the lists and see if the brick is visible. We see if we can hit it. And if we hit it, we make it invisible again at points and so forth. Again, if you're having troubles with this, make sure that you let us know and maybe we can help you out somehow. These things will continue because arrays are really awesome. You can easily see how we were able to create a lot of more game objects with not as much code as it seemed at first. You know, we started from 1 brick, and adding more bricks to this seemed like, oh man, we would have to just duplicate all this code. But we can change our now number and create a humongous amount of bricks now. In the following episode, I'm going to show you how to have multiple rows of bricks as well, because I think this is something neat. So we have like a huge array of bricks there, and so you can change the number of bricks, maybe even the size of the bricks dynamically and stuff like that. And then we're gonna maybe also think about how to make some kind of like you're done, and maybe multiple levels and stuff like that. Let's see about that. But first we need to deal with making multiple rows of bricks. But for now we're gonna make a small break. I hope you'll join us next time around. See you. Bye bye guys. Bye bye.